We have a number of formulas for finding the roots of a quadratic if we're given the equation. The first obvious one is just to plot the graph and have a look at where it crosses the x-axis. So in this case, the roots are -4 and -1. And this is a fairly simple trinomial to factor. Factors out into the two binomial components, x plus 4, x plus 1. And of course, that tells us that the roots are -4 and -1, just as we always knew. Today, you're going to be using the quadratic formula, which is actually a formula designed to tell you the roots of any quadratic, provided they exist, as long as you can just put some numbers in the right place and make the calculation. So in general, if the quadratic has the form y equals ax squared plus bx plus c, one of the roots is given by this part of the quadratic formula. So let's see how that pans out. So it's a matter of finding out what my a, b, and c are. In this case, my a, since it's implicit, it's 1. My b is 5, and my c is 4. Now everywhere I see an a, I'm going to be putting in a 1. And so 4ac, there's going to be a 1 there. And just recognize that the little dot represents a multiplication sign. 2a, and so it's going to become 2 times 1. And now I'm ready to make my substitutions for b, and so -b becomes -5, and b squared becomes 5 squared, and that's it for b. Now I just have to make my one substitution for c, and of course c is 4, b is 4. Now it's just a question of completing that calculation correctly.
Now it's my recommendation at this point that you compute the radical, or the discriminant. Basically, it's this part under the square root sign. So compute that first. 4 times 1 times 4 is 16. 5 squared is 25. And 25 minus 16 is 9. And of course the last thing, compute the bottom. And 2 times 1 is 2, so that one's really easy. And I do know the square root of 9 is 3. And so calculating the first root is relatively simple. The second root, if you leave your answer in this form, the second root is relatively easy to calculate once you know those three numbers, because the quadratic formula gives us two roots. The only difference is one has a minus, whatever's in the radical sign, and one of them is a plus, whatever in the radical sign. And so I can very quickly come up with my second root just by realizing I'm subtracting 3 instead of adding it for my second root. And so if I've preserved all my numbers, I just have to take this part away and change this a little bit from a plus to a minus, and now I'm all ready to calculate my second root. So there you go. That's how you use a quadratic formula.